Hi, I'm Jodi Daley, and welcome to Let's Talk, where we discuss things that matter to all of us. Today, we're talking about one of the best medicines around. You don't need a prescription, you probably already have it in your house, and your health actually depends on it. We're talking about food, so don't go away.
Supermarkets can get pretty confusing nowadays. So many aisles, so many products. How can you save time and money when you shop? Get into the habit of buying your store's store brands. You get the same quality as national brands and save at the cash register. No apps, no coupons, just money in your pocket. Give them a try and smile your way through the supermarket.
The old saying, you are what you eat, has never been truer than it is today, and our three guests are proof. Sale Milne was diagnosed with Lyme disease last summer, and thankfully she found it early. Michael Lee Brown has just finished 3 years on Broadway in the hit show Dear Evan Hansen, but while in college suffered from chronic fatigue, mood swings, depression, and digestive issues. And Ina Toppler-Mooney, our favorite nutrition and podcaster, is here to tell us why all of this is so relevant and why these two are so healthy. Before we jump in, we just want to remind folks at home that today's show isn't meant to be taken as medical advice or replace your doctor's care. We're here to talk about what we can do proactively to feel good and stay healthy. And with that, I'm going to turn to you, Ina. It's so good to see you again.
Wonderful to see you.
Now, since you were here last, you've started an amazing podcast that I actually am a little bit addicted to. Could you tell everybody a little bit about it?
Sure, absolutely. So it's called Health Mystery Solved, and I go through unexplained health issues and help people figure out what some of the underlying causes are. There's so many people that suffer from so many things and often don't have answers, and it's really meant to show people that the answers are out there and there really is hope.
So you describe yourself as someone who deals with root cause. And how is that different from what some other practitioners do?
So oftentimes, if someone has an issue, it's usually something that has been going on in the body for a little while. And while, of course, there are certain things like medications or certain supplements that we can do, a lot of times it just covers up the issue. And what I try to figure out is where is it stemming from so we can fix it from the inside out. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of times if people have an ailment, it may be one thing here and then that's something else, so someone's leg may hurt and maybe their arm will hurt and they have a headache. So it's not the arm's fault or the leg's fault, it's because everything in the body is so interrelated.
Now, when you say interrelated, we talked before and you were talking about the body is kind of a bucket, and when it overflows, that's when the problems start. Could you explain what you mean by that?
Of course. So a lot of times, if we have issues, like I was saying before, they've been going on for a little while. And so if you think about it, we all look different, right? Both on the inside and the outside. So if we can imagine that we're all born with a bucket in our body. And as we live our life, we add stuff to the bucket. So let's just say maybe we have some stress, or maybe we're not eating as well as we should, or maybe there's certain medications we have to take, or we're exposed to toxins and just, daily life. Things fill up. And then when that bucket fills up, you put that one last thing in the bucket and it starts to overflow. And that's when we start to get all of the symptoms. But what's interesting is that a lot of the times people think back to the last thing they put in, but that is just the straw that broke the camel's back. That's not necessarily the culprit, it's everything else that's there.
So that brings me to Michael. So when you went to college and you started feeling, well, not sick, but when you started complaining about chronic fatigue and depression, I thought you were just eating too much out of the vending machines in college. No. What was it?
So because of those symptoms, I sought to discover a reason why I was feeling this way. And so I found that I had high copper. And so through discovering high copper, found out that it caused copper toxicity, which is basically causing fatigue, can cause depression, digestive issues, among many other things.
So you found copper. I mean, did you just go to WebMD and figure this out? I mean,
no, I went to a functional medicine doctor and found that, what this was.
And so, Ina, tell me about what process somebody would go through to find. I wouldn't know how to look for that, and I don't think my GP would know how to look for that.
Yes, and unfortunately, just a conventional doctor is going to look more at the symptoms and try to see if there are maybe specific medications or things, and they kind of put you in a box to diagnose you, but kind of what we were talking about with the bucket, it's a combination of things. And so we really want to look at the whole person. And, testing for metals could be done through a hair test or a very specific blood test, so there's a lot of ways to look at the function of the body.
And how'd they do that with you?
Same way.
Hair and
blood tests.
Okay.
Exactly.
So what happened after that? Did they put you on medication?
No, basically just a great diet.
That's because this is about food as medicine. Go ahead.
Exactly. No, just basically a great diet. I essentially was paleo, so I stayed away from grains, sugar, dairy, and high inflammatory foods. and took a bunch of supplements.
What
that
is
then
a
helped.
high inflammatory food?
So essentially, grains, for one, are very high inflammatory. So basically anything that causes inflammation in the body. And so without getting too much into detail, there's basically an extensive list of food that causes inflammation within the body. And you don't want that because essentially your body's kind of, one, it's inflamed, but it's always on this high alert all the time. And with that, it kind of prevents you from being able to achieve something you're trying to achieve. In my situation, I was trying to detox. And so when you're trying to detox, you don't want your body to be fully inflamed all the time because it's just preventing yourself from detoxing.
So are you going to be like this forever? Or
No. It's just, hopefully not. No, and through what I did, I really was able to detox the copper and get on a better track and feel really great now. And, staying away from certain foods that are high copper
Sure.
and certain things like that all contribute to feeling better.
Now, Sal, your story is a little bit different. Tell us how you found out you had Lyme disease.
I'm an athlete and grew up as a dancer, and it just became habit for me to kind of keep a record of how I'm feeling on different days. If I have an injury, if I'm starting a new supplement, so I can take that to my doctor. So I'm, high-level dork right here, self-affirmed. So I started noticing more and more every month. I was just writing, why am I so tired? Something is off. Why can't I finish a workout? Took a 3-hour nap today. And that became very disconcerting. And I went back and started looking at those days and realizing they were the majority of the month. And so I decided to go to the doctor and have that looked into.
And so you were diagnosed with Lyme, and
Yes.
then you went on an antibiotic regime?
I did. I think what is a typical protocol for 6 weeks. Pretty hard medicine on the body. And that 6 weeks was not pleasant. And then when I finished the meds, I wasn't feeling any better. And at that point, I thought, there's got to be something else I can do for myself. And that's when I thought food is going to be my way.
So what did you do?
I immediately started reading as much as I can, looking at different ways, more holistic approaches to medicine. And for me personally, I started with celery juice. So I drink 16 ounces of that, organic, that I juice every morning on an empty stomach. Then I wait half an hour before I have
So
my
after
breakfast.
you changed your diet and started celery juice and the new protocol, what happened?
I started just to feel like my old self again, and I was living my life again. I was not in bed for 4 or 5 hour stretches in the middle of the afternoon to take a nap because that's what I had to do. That had become my reality. And I think for so many people that suffer from chronic illness, feeling sick becomes your normal.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous place to be. I got on the other side of that using food, and I'm not looking back.
So pretty good sleuthing, I'd say. So could you comment on the fact that, they've changed things, not with medication, but with food, and why this is so special?
Well, what we eat is really the most important thing for our health. Because if you think about it, we eat 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a day. And while yes, of course, there's a time and place for certain medications and even things like supplements. As a nutritionist, I love supplements, but our food comes first. I mean, this is what once we eat it, it gets digested, broken down, absorbed, and then becomes our body, right? It's our cells, it's our skin, it's our hair, it's our organs, it's everything. So that is just incredibly important. And what we put in our body makes what our body is.
Wow, it kind of makes me reconsider what I had for breakfast. When we come back, we're going to get to the meat and potatoes. I'm sorry, I just couldn't resist one pun. And we will hear just what it takes to get yourself on the road to recovery and stay healthy through food. Don't go away.
Want to make your mealtime a little more enjoyable? Check out the ready-to-heat, ready-to-serve meals and side dishes offered at your favorite supermarket. Whether it's chilled or fresh or frozen, you can taste the cuisines of the world. And if you buy the supermarket store brands, you can be sure of quality and freshness at reasonable prices. Give them a try and add something special to mealtime.
Welcome back. We're talking about getting and staying healthy through food. And the one thing I keep thinking about is how the heck do you stick to this all the time? I mean, doesn't it get expensive? Isn't it inconvenient to find these foods? I'm going to start with you, Sal. This whole good for you stuff is great in theory, but how hard is it to keep up?
For me, in my personal experience, when you understand how good you can feel, you really find yourself weighing, I could have this food that's delicious and etc., but I know how I'm going to feel afterwards. And me personally too, I would fall back into habits very easily. I don't know if you guys can identify with that. So it's better, but then again, it's life. I like to adopt the 80-20 rule. Nobody's perfect.
How did you decide what to do and what not to do? Or
Yeah.
do you still? I mean, I'm sure it's still the same way.
No, of course. It's kind of just finding that happy balance, that happy medium between, understanding that, okay, if I eat this, I'm going to feel this certain way, or if I don't eat this, I'm going to feel a certain way. It's just kind of navigating how you feel. And I think the more and more you do it, the more and more you become aware of your body and know the times that you can have a certain type of food or the times that you can't have a certain type of food.
They're obviously the poster children of eating well. How do we start?
Well, I think
I'm not the poster child for eating well, by the way. How do people like me start?
Well, I think it's just starting somewhere, right? So whether it is, okay, I'm going to change one meal, right? And so maybe I can cut out a little bit of the sugar, or I could start eating a little bit more fruits and vegetables, right? And maybe do that for breakfast, and then do that for a week or two, see how you feel. And then from there, we can move to lunch and then to dinner. So this way, you're not overhauling your whole life. You know, and I think in their situation, it was different. You know, you guys weren't feeling well, so you had no choice. You had to make the change right away. You know, if someone is just trying to be healthier and feels like it's overwhelming, they could just do a little bit at a time, because I think every little bit helps.
Now, you're not sick anymore.
No, I feel great.
And
Yeah.
you're not sick anymore. You've been managing your conditions.
Yes.
And talk a little bit more about your 80-20.
It piggybacks on what you just said. It's you want to make changes you can stick with. And if you try to do too much too soon, you're probably going to be defeated very quickly, unless you're a certain kind of personality that can just go all the way in.
Apparently, like you and
But
Michael.
no, but for me, you know, I actually did it very gradually. I started with
Yeah.
celery juice, and then when I started to feel better and the darkness was lifted, then it opened me up to more research of other things I can start to do, incorporate into my body, just eating things from the earth. I think you said that really well. And small changes over time. I mean, slow and steady wins the race. It truly, truly does.
Okay, so quick last tips from everybody. Sale?
I think turn over whatever you're eating and look at the ingredients, because if you can't pronounce the ingredients, your body probably can't either.
So calories and chemicals?
I would say count your chemicals, not your calories.
All right, good. Michael, how about you?
I would say listen to your body. Your body wants to feel good, it wants to heal. And so the more and more you eat well, the more good that you put in your body, the better it'll feel, and you'll feel more in tune with your body. And it's super important. Give it the proper fuel it needs.
Okay, and Ina?
Yeah, it's really what you eat, the food that you choose, is really the single most important decision that you're going to make.
And for me, I think it's going to be reconsidering lunch. Thank you all very much. I learned a lot today. I really did. And for those of you at home, remember, just as Ina said, the food you put in your body is the single most important decision you'll make today. Thank you for joining us. And be sure to check out our other videos here on our YouTube channel, or go to storebrandsusa.com for shopping information, recipe ideas, and more. I'm Jodi Daley, and I'll see you next time for another healthy edition of Let's Talk.